Hey everybody, welcome out to my top 100 albums of all time. We've reached the end. Many of you, I'm sure, have just kind of jumped to this section of the list, right? Because why would you not jump to the final 10 out of a big old 100 thing? Statistically, numerically, we've seen how top 100s work. People tend to jump in for the first section, and then they tend to jump into the last one, and then there's this kind of reverse bell curve for the middle ones, right? I really encourage you, if you like discussions of music, yeah, there's going to be 10 phenomenal albums on here, right? Just absolutely my favorites, obviously. But there's so many good, diverse, weird, different albums throughout this whole listing here. And so, yeah, if you like that, take some time. Maybe it takes time to get through all of them, but there's so many good things I want to discuss. I am a huge fan of classic rock, heavy metal, and the top 10 is going to reflect that. It absolutely is. There's just no two ways about it, right? But even within here, you're going to see some cool stuff. But like I said, I really encourage you to check out some of those things. Check out 80 through 61 to see, just some of the other stuff that 100 through 81 to see some like the jazz and the folk music, the other stuff that I have on here besides what's in it. If you say, well, Chris has such a narrow focus of what he likes, obviously this is what's going to be there, then don't watch this. We'll go watch the other ones. I swear there's some great surprises. But of course, these are my favorites, so I'm really excited to talk about them. And I hope that you are excited for me to talk about them as well. Number 10, let's go ahead and get started.
Just on two legs, you never. Don't you hear my call? Though you're many years away. Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me.
A Night at the Opera, Queen's absolute masterpiece. If you've watched the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, go ahead and kind of unlearn some of the stuff in that movie. I think that the stuff more about the recording of this album is not too inaccurate, but especially like the Live Aid, the later era Queen stuff, a lot of that was really chalked up to like theatrics. And anyway, there's better ways to learn about the history of Queen. They're a phenomenal band, very interesting, incredibly influential. Freddie Mercury, probably one of the best male vocalists to exist on the face of this planet ever. Just so powerful, and all that comes through so well on here. Every member of Queen, Roger, Brian, Freddie, who am I forgetting? Of course, as soon as I start talking, right? Roger Deacon, John Taylor. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, all of that, right? Incredible songwriters. Every one of them has songwriting credits for different songs throughout Queen's career, and there's just so many great ones on here as well. Starting the opening track, Death on Two Legs, right? Starts with this whole big piano run that's just so cool and gets into this like, for anyone who says that Queen isn't like in parts kind of a metal band, right? Listen to a track like Death on Two Legs. But of course, they are so much more than that. It's just, they're not incapable of going really heavy and dark in a way, right? Death on Two Legs, written about if I remember correctly, a record producer who spurned them. But going from something like that to a simple, dorky little track like Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon, right? Queen has range. There's no doubt about that. And so this album is the one that like shows it off so well, just the entirety of what they can kind of do. Not really true. That's a hyperbole, but I said it. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, well, I'm going to have to have said that, I guess. But just going through track after track after track, 39 is one of my favorite Queen tracks ever. Brian May with acoustic guitar, some layering of guitar harmonies and stuff later on, tons of vocal harmonies. 39 is amazing. It's a modern like folk song, basically. The reason it's called 39, you should listen to it. It's so good, right? It is. But the whole idea is like it's this folk song, acoustic guitar about these people. The ships sailed out into the blue, brave explorers going off. It's about rocket ships and astrophysics. If you don't know, Brian May, the guitarist and singer, is one of the singers and songwriters of Queen, has a PhD in astrophysics. This song is not about ships sailing off and then they come back and the world's changed in the time that these brave explorers have been gone. Yes, that is what it's about, but the spaceships. And in the time with the whole relativity of time passing because of gravity, these explorers go off into space, and when they come back, it's been 1 year for them, but it's been 100 years on the Earth. That's why the track is called 39. Because it's 2 years called 39, 100 years apart. That's what Brian May wrote this about. Yes, you deserve to listen to this track. Anyway, of course, tons of great songs on here, like Bohemian Rhapsody. But if you've never heard Prophet's Song, that is a track that almost it rivals the epicness of the big operatic section and whatnot of Bohemian Rhapsody, right? Go listen to that one. It's so cool. There's this great feature, there's this great moment in there where Freddie, it cuts all the band, all the drums and the guitar and the bass and everything, cuts away, and it's just Freddie Mercury's pure vocals, right? And he starts singing this line, and then there's a delay that repeats that line, and he starts harmonizing to himself. And then the new harmony delays and repeats, and he starts harmonizing to that, and it starts building up and up and up and up and up. It's this technique that they invented wherein they would record, and they would do this live. They would record onto a tape. So there's a recording head here, and the tape would move along, and when it hit the playback head over here, then it would play back, and they would then harmonize and play back to themselves that was just recorded live a matter of seconds before. And now any street musician can do that with a delay pedal. Anyone if you see it perform on a cruise ship or busking out in the street, they probably have something like this. But they hand-made these things. Brian May hand-built his own guitar. Before I make this a 50-minute long video, I'm gonna stop here and say this album deserves all the praise. Bohemian Rhapsody, is it overly overused, overly famous? No, this whole album's fantastic. If you have not listened to it, start to finish, goes from jazz to beautiful little lilts and stuff. Anyway, show tunes to metal to opera, everything. This album lives up to its name. It's so good. Going from an album that has everything and so much range to an album that is so much less range. This is Fight the Good Fight by the Interrupters. This is the I was talking about the Interrupters before earlier on the list, but this is the album that I was first introduced to them to. They were playing She's Kerosene, track number 3, the big standout hit from this album. They were playing it out of the gym, and I was like, why are they playing a ska song from the 90s in the gym, 5 years ago? Oh, it's a new song, or 7 years ago. Anyway, I still think of that as very recent. But this album, from beginning to end, title holder, bunch of great lyrical wordplay about, comparing like boxing to just, the fighting the good fights, right? Standing up for what you believe in and being a good person, all that type of stuff. For a punk band, they have a lot of songs about just being good people. I like that mix, right? Because I love punk rock so much, but I don't always love the attitude, right? But there is something to be said about defiance in the name of kindness is ever increasingly a form of defiance, truly. And so there are songs about that broken world and outrage and stuff. But there's also just there's more introspective songs. Room with a View, right? About once again dealing with death and passing and losing loved ones and stuff. But there's also introspective tracks like So Wrong, right? I was wrong. How many punk rock songs are there? Ska punk songs about like, I was wrong, I'm going to learn my lessons from it. And then you go to a track called She's Kerosene. You're like, that person's awful, and I'm going to write an entire bitter track about how terrible they are. So anyway, this is such a great album. Like I said, it sounds like so much of the best stuff from bands like Rancid and such, but just modernized, and there's so much talent in the band. The singer, Amy, is incredible. If you want to see a great live performance or like a radio station live performance, there's one you can find on YouTube, and just like hearing her ability and her range is so cool. And then the other 3 band members are all brothers. They're all brothers that somehow have stuck in a band together, and they are they're in lockstep. They're fantastic. So anyway, Fight the Good Fight, number 8. In Flames, no stranger to many of the videos and stuff that I've already done here. Clayman, their album from 2000. This is the follow-up to the one that was on the last section of 10, Colony. This is, like I said, this is with that classic kind of long-standing iconic band lineup, and you can tell that they're just continually growing and becoming better songwriters from their previous album, from Colony. And there's just so many great tracks on here. This one got more radio attention. This is kind of when In Flames started becoming more recognized and larger, and they still haven't lost that sense of just that original sound that makes them so good. And so you listen to tracks like Satellites and Astronauts, and there's just that folk and classical kind of influence throughout it. They're not afraid to do tracks like Swim, which are written in a major key, which, happier sounding stuff, which is unusual for death metal, particularly. But yeah, there's so many tracks. Only for the Weak is for a long time one of my absolute favorite songs made. It's a great album. Apparently, in the new standard, I guess the new standard version of it, it has 2 extra tracks on it: Strong and Smart and World of Promises. World of Promises is a really fun, weird little cover. They're not afraid to do covers of songs and kind of turn it into their own style. I think that'll work so well to the strength of this album. Incredible album, start to finish. Just one that really, really hooked me and continues to be just one of my favorites. Amon Amarth has been on my list previously, but this one here is their first concept album. This is the 10th album. I still think of this as like the new Amon Amarth album. And then I see that came out in 2016, and I just kind of inside a little bit. This is, in my mind, the new album. Oh, there's been 2 releases since this one. This is the one that I've mentioned listening to music in the gym. There was a little period where I was better about going to the gym, and this is gym music. Jomsvikings, right? So it's brutal, it's metal, it's everything about that you would expect from like Swedish death metal kind of stuff, but also, like many of my favorite versions of death metal, incredibly melodic. There's even more melody than usual, and Amon Amarth is not afraid of great guitar harmonies and wonderful guitar work and stuff. But this album really elevated what they did. A lot of people say that there's Iron Maiden-esque influence to them because there's more just all around storytelling from start to finish. It's this legacy. It's this epic about this person from first kill. Right, they're a person in a village. They kill someone without necessarily meaning to, and then everything else in this album is a consequence, a direct consequence of the journey that this person goes because of that, being extricated from their society, from their folk, from their kind. They become a wanderer. They journey. They go through this huge epic, all these stories, and then the album comes with, it comes around in the end. He returns to his village to be triumphant in a track called "A Dream That Cannot Be." Oh, this isn't a hero's journey about coming back and being regaled for all the things you've done. They're actually a terrible person. This album's incredible, right? And I like that twist, that slight non-glorification of hyper-violence and everything in an album full of like being a Viking and all that type of stuff, right? But Raise Your Horns is like the standout track that's so good, very radio-friendly, but then you go to The Way of Vikings, and it's just aggressive and so cool, right? And at the same time, like I said, not celebratory of this awful person in a lot of ways, right? But just the best storytelling that there has been in an Amon Amarth album. I can listen to this start to finish on repeat. And like I said, absolutely gym music. If you're looking for something to like pump to or cardio to or whatever, I was never impressive, as you could assume from my physique. But man, this is the stuff that just came out at a perfect time. I think this is a perfect album, start to finish. Just incredible. Love the story that it tells. Love how it does it. Dream That Cannot Be has Doro Pesh, I believe is her name. Great guest vocalist, really rounds out this whole story, this back and forth. If you want a modern version of a Viking epic, this is probably it. If you've seen the movie The Northman by Eggers, the Eggers film, right? This is like This is like that. The album. So good, so worth listening to.
Sorry.
Nope. Guest appearance from Tom Basil. Tom, what do you think of my number 6 album, Prequelle by Ghost? Never heard it? Not a shocker.
Sorry.
So this album it's just one of my Prequelle by Ghost. Just incredible album. This has that signature, not afraid to be weird and musically explorative, and just kind of going all over the place, right? Starting with the song Rats, just this cool, grotesque kind of Black Plague kind of soundscape that starts with Between Ashes and into Rats and stuff. And then it goes, of course, into its exploration of religious themes and stuff that I don't personally agree with on any level whatsoever. And yet I find this whole, this perspective, this story that they want to tell very intriguing at the same time. And then also there's an instrumental track called Miasma that has a saxophone solo breakdown in the middle of it. And then it goes to Dance Macabre, this like upbeat kind of disco, very danceable track in what is otherwise this like cool metal album. This is the type of stuff that I love, that I think really separates many of the bands that I think are absolute standouts when they're not afraid to be influenced by more than just other bands in their ilk. And so this is one of those things, right? Very beautiful. And lest you think that it's all just like aggressive, stupid metal and stuff, there's a lot of beauty in tracks like Pro Memoria and Life Eternal, right? There's just and just kind of those questions of greater morality and whatnot. But wow, what an album! When I was putting together my top 100, I was like, well, I know that this is going to be in the top 10. It's just one of those that has stuck with me. 2018 album, my favorite Ghost album, so good. Anyway, so that is Prequelle. The Great War by Sabaton is their album about World War I. Obviously, right? They tend to make these concept albums, whereas I said earlier, Amon Amarth it took them 10 albums to make one of them. Great War, or not a Great War, a Sabaton, this fantastic, people call them a power metal band, but they're just less embarrassing and dorky. They are no strangers to doing concept albums, whether the earlier one that was on my list, The Last Stand, about great, like, triumphant resistance battles and stuff, standoffs against greater forces. The Great War touches on so much about World War I history. Big fan, love learning about World War I history. And so, yeah, the future of warfare about tanks and some of the real just huge change that changed the face of how wars have been fought since then. 7 Pillars of Wisdom about T.E. Lawrence, or a.k.a. Lawrence of Arabia, a.k.a. I don't know, Lawrence of Arabia. Big Boy Lawrence. I don't know what his nicknames are. But just all of these are so great, historically rich tracks that make me want to learn more about all these different people. Everyone's heard about the Red Baron, I'm sure, right? If you ever watched an episode of Peanuts and Snoopy, you know a little bit about the Red Baron. But do you know about the Attack of the Dead Men? This is such a wild story. Such a wild story about Russians who were gassed, and their entire troop was basically coughing up blood. They covered their face in rags to try to not drink it, but to breathe in less of toxic gas, poison gas stuff. They're coughing up blood. They look just absolutely. They look like dead men walking. Is the whole thing, and then they countercharge and they fight back against the German invasion. Unbelievable. And so just the history, the rich research that goes into these albums it pays off so much. People joke that Sabaton is their adult version of history class, and there's definitely something to that. I've learned a lot about cool, interesting moments of warfare and history because of, say, like, that track was great. What is that about? You know, you glean some stuff from the songs themselves, but it does what I think great board games do that are also set historically. It makes you say, I gotta learn more about this. What the heck is that the Attack of the Dead Men thing about? Because that's like unbelievable. It's amazing. So I got to learn more. The ending track in Flanders Field is just just a sad. It's a poem. It's not even like a metal track at all, right? It's just kind of this outro track of a children's choir singing this poem written about the loss, just the personal and the entire loss that was World War I or the Great War. And it's just an underappreciated portion of history, and I think that more people should learn about it. And this album is honestly not a bad way to maybe pique your interest about different aspects of it. Are you tired of me talking about In Flames yet? Sorry, here's the Jester Race. This is their second album after Lunar Strain. This is the last album that has that awful band logo, just that whole just Scandinavian death metal, incomprehensible, unable to be read. There's a fly in here logo. But this album just stands out as just that whole, what is that Gothenburg melodic death metal scene? This to me is kind of just, in many ways, definitive of that sound. Dark, grim, the stories that it tells are just of horrors and destruction and all that stuff. Yeah, it's metal, right? But also the guitar work, the walls of harmony and the melodic nature of it all just really elevates it. And then it's just not afraid to also be just dumb and aggressive and stuff. But then Wayfarer is this cool instrumental track. I love when bands do instrumental tracks. I'm personally a huge fan. Being a musician, maybe I appreciate the opportunity to do something creatively different. But it's kind of like with Ghost. It's also not afraid to have this weird, just a whole divergence from a lot of their normal sound and stuff. Especially you get part with you the track, right? But this album also is I kind of since retroactively been permanently paired with a shorter EP of theirs called EP, LP. I confuse those terms sometimes. Black Ash Inheritance, which has tracks on it like Gyroscope, which would be featured later in their catalog, Goliath's Disarm Their Davids, Acoustic Medley. If you don't even love metal, check out Acoustic Medley. Their Acoustic Medley is beyond gorgeous, and it's just kind of these acoustic versions of many of their great the great guitar work from other tracks of theirs. So, what a great album. And hope you're not sick of In Flames yet, because this is the other album. This is number 3. This is this album, I'll call it Whoracle for the niceness of the Dice Tower. It's just incredible. This is their third album, so after Lunar Strain, which was in the 60s or something like that, 70s I think, and then the next album, Jester Race, was just right before that, before this one, and now this one here, starting with Yotan and Food for the Gods, just these big kind of world-shaping, grandiose, epic type songs and stuff, but then also going into these real beautiful things like Dialogue with the Stars and Jester Script Transfigured. It's just so much melody, a lot of good clean guitar work and stuff as well. But then just Dialogue with the Stars is a instrumental track. I'm thinking that correctly, right? Sometimes you say things, you're like, I'm going to stick with it. Anyway, but yeah, just this really cool, playful kind of track in the middle of this aggressive metal and stuff. But like I said, just so much melody. If you heard that really beautiful guitar lick and stuff that comes from this track here called Episode 666, thematically about the end of the world, but it's also kind of being televised because ratings, just, that kind of somber look. But then this track down here, Everything Counts, is a cover of a Depeche Mode song. And I didn't know that for a long time until I heard the original. I thought, wow, they really inflamesified. They really made that song their own, but it fit thematically with this idea, once again, another concept album. This album going through just kind of the cycle of destruction and rebirth and everything. But yeah, just this very sardonic look at everything counts in large amounts, right? What matters to people and what doesn't. So anyway, this album, like I said, I'm going to call it Whoracle for family friendliness, but incredible, shaped so much of what I love about music. I said that a lot about some of these Ozzy stuff and In Flames stuff. But it really shaped a lot of what I love about writing and performing and music and everything. And yeah, so good.
I was me, but now he's gone.
I've said a long time Metallica's my favorite band. It's kind of the basic answer. And while other times I love bands like Ghost and Amon Amarth and Sabaton and In Flames and stuff, there's always that question of like, but what's my favorite band? It always kind of comes back to Metallica. They're the band that made me pick up the guitar and want to play for the first time ever. And so Ride the Lightning, their second studio album. I had Kill 'Em All earlier. I don't remember exactly where it was positioned. Right, their debut album. I've had several other of the albums on here, but Ride the Lightning is just one of the coolest, one of the best things ever made, right? Fight Fire with Fire started with this cool, classical inspired acoustic guitar stuff, and it leans straight into that like fast-paced thrash metal, right? There's no doubt about it. Ride the Lightning is you would assume just like this nonstop fast-paced track, and it's actually more rich and filled out than that. It has this great recurring motif of that thunderous boom mixed with that that high-pitched guitar harmony that kind of represents well thunder and lightning. Very, very frightening me. But For Whom the Bell Tolls, worthy of a Sabaton album, right? This fantastic track about some of the losses of World War I and everything, inspired mostly by the Hemingway novel. And once again, right, here's like this dumb, stupid, fast metal band writing tracks about Hemingway novels and stuff, right? It's so cool. I don't want to just talk about every single track on here, right? But the instrumental track, The Call of Cthulhu, which they've kind of gone back and said like, why don't we just call it Cthulhu, right? But it was less popular and people knew it less back in the day. So like I guess they changed the spelling of it, if I remember correctly, sort of as like just like an easier way of pronouncing it more or less correctly. But what a cool, haunting 90-minute long instrumental, just amazing to see live, right? Especially the orchestral version where they play with the San Francisco Symphony. As I said, no live albums on my list. That would probably put even more Metallica albums in my top, probably just in the top 10. I'll be completely honest. But yeah, Ride the Lightning, start to finish, so good. Even Escape, which the band doesn't love, their like crummy attempt at a radio single is better than most modern crummy attempts at radio singles. But love this album. But what's number one? Well, so it's sort of a toss-up. What's my number two and my number one album? Both by all-time favorite band, both just incredibly influential. Love every single track on both of these albums and stuff, just nonstop. So how did I make the decision? I don't know. I just had to go with my gut. I hit my chest when I said gut. Master of Puppets, though, just maybe ever so slightly is more iconic and more directly, these are some of the tracks that I was like, I gotta learn how to play that intro of Master of Puppets, right? And then that like kind of like spider riff there, it's just impressive, so impressive. Just in terms of like actually the performance, the production on this one is perhaps just a little bit better, if maybe not a little inconsistent compared to Ride the Lightning, but the tracks on here are just so good, and perhaps it's just that little bit of extra time, that extra little bit of maturity, or the fact that this is Metallica's last album with their original bassist Cliff Burton, who was such an influence, and you could hear that influence on their instrumental track Orion. And it's one of those weird questions, right? In terms of like Battery versus Fight Fire with Fire, opening track, opening fast, classical guitar influenced intro to fast-paced thrash music. Which one do I prefer of those two opening tracks? Title tracks at number 2 position. Which one do I prefer between those two? Instrumental track, right? Orion versus Call of Cthulhu. Which one do I prefer out of those two? And it's just one of those things where like, I guess I just kind of prefer Master of Puppets, like, ever so slightly in all those little categories and stuff. But this album it's the album that really, to me, defines so much of who Metallica is, who they were, the splash, the impact that they made, just that incredible, like, organic growth that they had because they put out 3 stellar albums in a row. The opening album, I think, is noticeably weaker than these other two, but like back to back, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets made such a splash, and it made metal while still underground at that time, especially this thrash aggressive, just heavy metal like that. It really popularized. It really maybe popularized is not the right term, but it solidified the base. That grassroots kind of base from which so much changed in the music world, but also just on a personal level, so much changed for me after discovering what you could do with rock music, with guitar work and everything. And so, like I said, so much of this is a lot of times influenced on how it influenced me personally, the stuff that I want to play on guitar, the stuff that I want to create, the stuff that I want to write. And this is just I don't know. Hopefully that's like the highest praise I can really say about my favorite album of all time. So, this has been a journey. Thanks for coming along with me. Like I said, if you watched this one and you said, Chris is all these like, boring heavy metal, boring rock type of stuff, go listen to some of the other sections. I promise there's tons of cool, weird, fun, interesting, different stuff as well. But I hope that you also really enjoyed this section here, my favorite albums of all time. And I'm almost sad now that I'm done. But like I said, I hope that as this airs over a week and stuff, that I'm excited to see comments and feedback and thoughts. And if you have checked out some of these, if you have recommendations for me, I'm excited to have a lot of discussion about music. So please comment below just let's chat music. As I said, a little sad that it's done now, but thanks for coming along with me. Hey everyone, my name's Chris Yee. Hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks for watching another video here on the Dice Tower. We really appreciate you stopping by and checking our things out. Thanks so much for joining us today. And hey, if you really like what we're doing here at the Dice Tower, then there are different ways to support the Dice Tower. One of those ways is through Patreon. We have links in the description to this video, and we have links to lots of other things we do down there, so definitely check it out. But either way, we're glad you watched us. Tell your friends about the Dice Tower. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vassell, and I hope you enjoyed this video.